Star Wars Rebels Season 2, Episode 15, Homecoming. Now, I said this probably, I think, 3 or 4 times within the past couple episodes, but every time they had to focus on one of the characters, all I would keep saying is, I want something, for Hera. Every time I was, once they did the Sabine episode, I was like, I want something on, Zeb and Hera. And then we got Zeb's episode, and last episode was just a really good Force episode. But we finally got a good Hera backstory episode, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty cool. We got to meet her father, who unfortunately turned out to be a pretty bad dude. He wasn't exactly like helping them with the mission and stuff, and he was more focused on revenge rather than actually capturing the ship and helping the rebels get this giant rebel ship that they could use to house basically everyone. And his big thing was like, sorry, we're just gonna blow it up because we need. I feel like we need revenge for our people so that they can see a rebel, an Empire ship, burning in the sky. So it was interesting having that relationship. I did love seeing Kanan nervous. That I thought was actually really funny. Like he shows up, and I mentioned this. I believe it was in the last episode, but we don't see a lot of the Kanan, Hera relationship stuff happen too often. So I was glad to see he was nervous because it was, he's meeting his girlfriend's father. So I thought that was actually pretty cool because he was meeting the father for the first time. So he was super nervous and he called everybody by the wrong name. Chopper was super pissed because he totally left him out, which I thought was actually really funny. And like Chopper just like what the heck? I'm right here. So I actually like that a lot. And then they actually get along. He's like a kind of fanboying all over, Hera's dad and stuff. It's like, oh man, you fought in the Clone Wars, and I used to hear stories from Mace Windu about this, and then he's telling the story about, I believe he mentioned like a song that was actually named after him because he saved all these people and stuff. And Hera was just like pissed, like, God, I kind of hate this guy because he was just like not the best dad. And like their first big interaction in this episode is when Hera's working on Chopper, and he's like, if you spent less time, or if you spent more time focusing on me instead of like this second-rate scrap heap or something like that, then we'd have a better relationship and all this other stuff. And I was like, man, that was, I know it's a droid, and he probably doesn't give a crap about a droid's feelings, and they oddly have feelings, in the Star Wars universe, but it just showed right there. It was like he kind of didn't care that she cared about Chopper or anything like that. So it was interesting seeing this guy, and I don't know. I mean, he somewhat changed a little bit by the end because they do convince him to help him out, and they have the nice scene when the bomb, or kind of the ball of energy, gets blown up right in front of the control panel, and the explosion knocks out the controls. They have the scene where he kind of helps Hera try to pull the ship and correct it, but I don't know. I mean, they ultimately end on a good note, but just that beginning I thought was pretty interesting. It's like he's this guy who used to help fight in the Clone Wars, and and it seems like everyone kind of has this ideal, but it's like the Jedi lost once, and they kind of don't want to get involved again. In the case of the Mandalorians that we saw in the one episode, they were actually working with the Empire, so that was a little different than Hera's dad and the other two people that was working with him. But still, it's just like they tend not to really help out. It's like everyone's like, oh, that, I've already fought in that war, who gives a crap? But it's way worse now. That was kind of, admittedly, that was a bit of an even battle because there were, across, different systems and everything. But the Empire basically has full control at this point, and it's weird to see all these people that helped fight during the Clone Wars. They're just like, nah, we just fight back a little bit, and that's it, and they don't really want to help out. So having had that happen twice now, it's just interesting to see those ideals. And there's certainly an understandable aspect of not wanting to join another war when you've already lived through one. So it's not like I think everyone should just be like going back to war, like they're happy to do it. But it's always interesting seeing how everyone, they were involved already, and in this case they do fight back. They don't seem like they attack them, or they don't seem like they attack the Empire, but they had their bouts with them when they came near, the planet and stuff like that. But it was a fun episode. There wasn't, a ton of craziness that happened in this. There were definitely some cool action scenes. My favorite, of course, was Kanan and Ezra using their force powers together. They did like the first thing where they both like force push a guy, and then the part where the doors are closing on the long hallway and they like use the force to throw each other. That I really loved. I was like, that was super sweet. And then the second half was even cooler when Ezra used the force to get Kanan and sent him through, and then he like whips out the lights. Excuse me, he whips out the lightsaber and everything, and then they do the thing where he stabs through the wall and he cuts the whole thing, and he just uses the force to take down both those stormtroopers, which I knew he was gonna do. Like as soon as he finished that circle, I was just like boom, and I knew that was gonna happen. So that was actually really good. The action was definitely interesting in this episode, and there was a really good scene with Hera and her father where they actually have the actress do. It's her actual accent, I believe. I looked up an article because I was so confused when that first happened. I was like, I don't understand what's happening right now because it was so weird, but it was interesting because it wasn't like it was an accent shift instead of just someone's voice typically gets higher when they're angry. She just switched her accent to, I'm assuming, her normal accent, or and if that wasn't, then she does a great accent. But she switched accents instead of switching how high or how low her voice sounded. And when I read that in the article, I was like, that actually is very cool because no one does that because it's not what we do in language in general. So it was confusing when I saw it, but when I read the article, I was like, that's actually insanely cool that they had the idea to do it that way instead of her just yelling or getting louder, which we have seen before. Hera has done that, but in this case, it's with her own father, so it was beyond like, hurry up or do this or do that. This was like a girl confronting her father after quite a while, and things still not working. Like things just being just as bad as they were when she took off. And I thought that was actually a genius idea to do it that way. So that was actually a really cool moment. Once I understood kind of why they did it that way, because at first I was like, something weird just happened. Like I honestly thought like in the middle something crazy happened and they just switched actresses or something. Then it went back and I was like, I have to look this up because something like I have to understand this. So once I understood it, it made a lot of sense, and I thought that was actually very cool. So I really loved that scene for them kind of switching up, what we normally know, in our English language. It's probably different in other languages where it may or may, I highly doubt it, you suddenly switch accents. But you never know, and there are a lot of languages on the planet, so who knows. But it was definitely a fun episode. Obviously, I enjoyed the action. I was glad to see that we did get a Hera episode, and we got um, quite a bit of backstory. We mostly got backstory on the father, I felt, than we did on her, oddly enough, and it was about who he was in the past compared to who he is now and how he transitioned, and that's what kind of led his daughter to really take off. But it was still good. It still all encompasses Hera, and that being a part of her backstory. So I certainly loved that. It was definitely exciting. Who knows what we're getting? I mentioned this before too. I hate that they put that stupid in promo thing at the end of every episode, and it's like, why don't they just show us what's coming up? Because they used to do that. They did that in the first season. They would show what the next episode was, and I'd be happy about it. I'd be excited. And now they just show the stupid little promo thing over and over again. I'm like, why do they even bother showing this? Like, they might as well show it for any other series that didn't just come on. Like, if I'm watching Star Wars, I don't need the promo clip to tell me Star Wars comes on Wednesdays because I watch Star Wars. So, still don't know what's coming up next, but I'm excited for it. I don't know how many episodes we're supposed to have, and I've mentioned this several times before, but the trailer they had before the mid-season premiere was a crazy trailer. So I feel like we have to have quite a few more episodes left. Like, I would assume that unless they cut a bunch of content and save it for season 3, we'd have to have, I don't know, maybe like 10 more episodes or something. Or they could condense it if they do some specials or something like that. But we have some cool stuff that I'm really looking forward to, but it doesn't seem like they're getting any closer to that as we go through these episodes. But they're doing some really good ones because we're getting, it was like backstory for Sabine, or maybe not backstory, but it was, heritage type of stuff for Sabine, and a little bit of backstory, her family and stuff. But we got Sabine, we got Zeb, we got a great Force episode last week, and then we get Hera's episode this week. So, it seems like they're doing that on purpose. I don't know if we're going to get a Kanan backstory episode, and I mentioned this. I don't even remember when I talked about this. This was quite a while ago. But there is a comic that tells his whole backstory. So I'm not sure if we're gonna get that. I would love to see it because I don't really have a ton of money to just buy the series comic, and I have no idea how long it's supposed to be. But hopefully we get something like that. I doubt they'll ever do flashbacks for Kanan because they would, it would be during, the Clone Wars, so it would be a bunch of, like, just a crazy action thing, unless they did do an hour-long episode, which I think that would be amazing if they did an hour-long special, and it was, like, all Kanan backstory, and it was, like, kind of back and forth between flashback and present. That would be amazing. For one, we'd get a ton of great action, because we'd get to see a lot of Jedi during the Clone Wars, much like, Attack of the Clones, but I don't know. It depends on how they want to do it. If they're gonna, use that story, or if they'll kind of leave that in the comic book style and kind of never show it and just drop little bits and pieces here and there about what battles Kanan was in and his former master and stuff. But it was a fun episode. Considering what they have done, I think we might get something on Kanan. I don't know. I mean, we know Ezra's backstory basically. It was like the whole first season was talking about Ezra and how he grew up and everything like that. And now we know the fate of his parents, possibly. Because I'm still not 100% certain that his parents are actually dead. I know the guy told him like they sacrificed themselves. But I'm like I don't know. And a lot of TV shows, I'm just like, I gotta see a body before I believe that people are just gone forever. Because once you do that, once you show an actual body, then they're gone. But if you don't, and someone just assumes they died because they were, sacrificing themselves to stay behind so you could take off, they could easily have just been captured and tortured horrendously, but could still be alive just for the sake of the Empire's bad and they want to torture them. So hopefully that does happen. I've said that before too, but I really do hope his parents are alive and they do like a crazy twist later in the series or something like that. But I certainly enjoyed this episode. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And at this point, we basically gotten, backstory for all of our characters. We even got, because during the scene when Hera was talking to her dad, she does mention that she was the one that found Chopper. If I'm remembering that right, she found him like during one of the battles, and they've been together basically ever since. So that was actually cool. We kind of got Chopper's backstory and where he came from, at least as far as knowing Hera and being a part of the rebels. So that was cool too. It was very very quick because it was just like we stuck together ever since this battle or whatever. But that was a cool little moment. I didn't really think about it because it was such a nonchalant line, like, oh, ever since this happened. So it wasn't like cemented in my head like that's technically Chopper's backstory, but it actually was. So I thought that was a cool moment too. But since we have a lot of backstory, there's still a ton that we can learn, especially like with Zeb and the war and stuff. We were told the story, but we still have this huge rivalry between him and Callus, and based on the way he told that story before, it was like he got knocked out or passed out or whatever, and he woke up and everything was destroyed. So I would love to know how he blames Callus like as his rival and how that really took off, where Callus was known as the one who kind of killed off the Lasat on the planet. So I want to know what backstory or what extra backstory do you guys want from our characters, because we still have a ton on Sabine. She's basically a part of this traitor clan of Mandalorians, which that's a lot. That's pretty awesome. It's like when you're a traitor to Mandalorians who are basically just bounty hunters and murderers, that kind of says a lot. So I would like some more on her, but I don't know. I guess because Callus is actually in a ton of episodes, that's why I'm so curious about how Zeb really formed that rivalry with Callus specifically, during that battle. But I want to know what extra backstory you guys want for the characters, which characters you want backstory from, of course, and what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.